In the lands where silence carried weight, some crimes were buried deeper than bodies.
They were feared for their raids, their blades, their hunger for wealth. But there was one crime they committed, one so severe that later rulers tried to erase every trace of the people who did it. Not because it was brutal, but because it revealed something far darker about Viking power. Most stories about Vikings speak of battles, longships, and distant shores, but almost nothing is said about the moment that turned entire communities against them. A moment that didn't happen on a battlefield, but inside their own world. You can still find hints of it, ruins left untouched, stories half told, and laws rewritten so carefully that you can sense the fear behind every word. People whispered about what happened, but rarely recorded it, not because they didn't know, but because saying it out loud meant inviting the same danger. What kind of act would make leaders and kings agree on one thing? Erase this. Do not let it be remembered. That's where our story begins. Every society has a line you're never supposed to cross. For the Vikings, that line wasn't about murder or theft. Those were part of the world they lived in. Their true line was honor, the invisible thread that held their ships, farms, and families together. Breaking that thread was worse than violence. It meant a person could no longer be trusted, not in trade, not in the hall, not even during a storm at sea. There was one act that tore this thread completely, turning against your own people. And the Vikings learned too late how easily that could happen. Imagine a small coastal settlement, long houses standing stubbornly against the cold, smoke rising, but thinner than usual, food stores low, tension higher than anyone wanted to admit. In times like this, loyalty mattered more than strength. Ships that once sailed together began to argue over who deserved the last sacks of grain. Small disagreements grew sharper, and in that razor-thin space between hunger and pride, one chieftain made a choice that would poison the North for years. He struck a deal with a rival group to betray a neighboring community in exchange for supplies. No duel, no warning, just a silent agreement, sealed by desperation. The raid that followed wasn't like the one sung about in halls. It wasn't glory. It was neighbors turning on neighbors. Men who shared winters, marriages, and stories suddenly faced each other with blades. And when the truth came out, it shocked even veteran warriors. Viking law had punishments for murder, theft, and broken oaths. But this didn't fit anywhere. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the destruction of trust itself. Across the region, leaders gathered. Stories spread faster than the details. Some said the traitors didn't defend themselves. Others said they believed the gods would forgive them. No one could agree on the facts, but everyone agreed on the feeling. If this crime spread, every village would fall apart. So the decision was made, quietly, deliberately, to wipe out every trace of those responsible. Not only the people, the memory, their names erased from stones, their deeds removed from recitals, their stories left out of gatherings. The worst fate for a culture built on legacy. Instead of songs, there was silence. Instead of tales, there were warnings spoken in low voices. Travelers who passed through those lands noticed something unsettling. A longhouse left empty, never repaired. A burial mound without carvings. A hearth that no one dared relight. You could feel the absence, like a ghost story no one wanted to tell. One visitor asked why the place was abandoned. The answer was always the same. Some things are better forgotten. But forgetting came with a cost. Because when you erase part of history, you also erase the lesson that could have prevented the next mistake. Other settlements began watching their own people more closely. Fewer trusted outsiders. Trade slowed. Allies became wary of each other. A single act of internal betrayal had created a ripple so wide that entire coastal routes changed. Some ships avoided the region completely. Others traveled armed, even when visiting friends. And every hall whispered the same question. If they erased one group, who else could be erased next? This quiet paranoia stayed for years, long after the guilty were gone, long after the winter passed. The shadow remained. One version of the story speaks of a boy, the only person who escaped the settlement before it was erased. He lived with relatives in another village, never spoke of his home, never mentioned the faces he lost. But one night, after too much ale, he whispered a line that froze the room. It wasn't the betrayal that destroyed us. It was the decision to hide it. And then he said, nothing more. The North learned something heavy from this event. They learned that the strongest walls were not made of timber or stone, but trust. Once that trust cracked, even slightly, it could split an entire coastline. People started taking loyalty more seriously. Oaths became sharper, almost sacred. Chieftains punished suspicion before it grew, and families watched each other with the quiet fear that the forgotten settlement could happen again. To them, to anyone. Over time, the land recovered. Halls rebuilt. Ships sailed again. But the air changed. Less laughter during feasts. More cautious eyes across the fire. The story lived only in whispers, passed from old warriors to young ones as a warning. Strength can protect a village from enemies, but only honor can protect it from itself. And the moment you destroy that, no weapon can save you. Most people think Vikings feared storms, rival clans, or the cold seas. But the truth is simpler and darker. The thing they feared most was each other. And somewhere out there, buried under soil no one digs, beneath stones no one marks, lies the memory of the crime they tried to erase. Not because it was too violent, but because it revealed a truth every society hopes to avoid. The greatest danger is always the one that comes from within. And if a people as fierce as the Vikings could fall to it, what makes the rest of us any safer?